Good morning, everybody. My name is Grace Libanati, and I am the Sales Account Executive here at Lifeboat Distribution. And I wanted to start off by thanking everyone for attending today's live presentation of Fighting File Bloat with Permanent Data Reduction software from Neuxpower. Today, we're excited to partner with Neuxpower and CDW and introduce to you Neuxpower's Neuxpower Lite. Today's presentation will show you how this important tool can dramatically decrease overall your data storage needs by addressing the issue of file bloat with Neuxpower's permanent data reduction software. Today's agenda, we're going to cover the discussion of file bloats and why it's important to address this and why it is a problem. Today's Neuxpower solution to file bloat, and an overall overview of Neuxpower's permanent data reduction software. Who's benefiting by eliminating the file bloat with Neuxpower, and again, how it can add value to you and your customers. And then after that, we'll go into a Q&A session to answer any questions you may have. Today, joining me on the panel from Neuxpower is Mike Power, the CEO of Neuxpower, and from CDW, we're joined by Stephen Bornfront and Reese Stern. Before I turn the presentation over to Mike, I want you to know we do encourage you to ask any questions you may have by entering them into the questions, entering your questions in the Q&A panel to the right-hand side of your screen. At the conclusion of the presentation, we'll be happy to answer any of your questions as time permits. Now I'd like to turn over the presentation to Mike.
Okay. Thanks, everyone, for making it down to attend our webinar today. I'm Mike Power, CEO of Neuxpower, and I'm going to talk to you about file bloat, what it is, and what you can do about it. I was recently speaking to Les, an IT manager from a small firm of surveyors here in the UK who were running out of space at a crazy rate and wanted to avoid ripping out and replacing hardware if they could. And they provisioned for another year, but the growth was seriously outstripping their estimates. And the main offender was JPEG files, kind of about half a terabyte of them, in fact, which is kind of a lot for a small business. He tried pushing people to use lower resolution digital cameras, but of course everyone wants to use the latest and greatest kit, and so he was getting a lot of pushback on that. And the ironic thing is that the other half of his storage was largely composed of those same JPEGs now embedded in a range of documents and presentations that his people were creating. Good news is he's pretty happy now. He's run our software and he's been able to instantly reclaim 35% of his storage by eliminating the bloats from these files. And excuse me, and he continues to use the software going forward, which should keep his growth under control, give him a bit more time to consider his next hardware upgrade a bit more carefully. Now, this situation isn't unusual. Data growth is absolutely accelerating for everyone, and it's up to IT managers to keep the lid on it if they can. I came across this quote recently from Eric Schmidt, who I think he captures the issue that IT is facing pretty well, actually. The dawn of civilization in 2003, there were around about 5 exabytes of information created, which now, 7 years later, that same amount of information is being created every 2 days. And in fact, they reckon that the pace is increasing, which is it's kind of staggering, really, but I'm sure more than a few people will associate with that kind of growth curve in terms of data. So there is a number of reasons why data is growing at such a crazy rate, but one of the less well-known reasons is file bloat. Excuse the graphics here. So what is file bloat? I'm sure everyone at some point has come across an unfeasibly large file that you've got no idea how on earth it got so big. Some kind of small but beautifully formed presentation that somehow has managed to become 330 megs in size. And Looking inside, it just seems to be a few photos, a bit of text, and the odd chart, nothing fancy or anything, but somehow it's consuming more space than the average computer came loaded with 10 years ago. And you notice that for some reason they made a second copy of that file with a different intro slide, and now it's consuming 660 megs. And you kind of wonder how effortlessly the average user seems to be able to consume so much storage. This is an example I kind of made up, actually. This is a real case down at Nestle, and it turned out that this particular file was extremely bloated. And once we'd run it through our software, it came down to a more respectable 2.5 megs. So there are many reasons for these files getting so big. Amongst those, the proliferation of high-res digital cameras. They just seem to keep getting bigger. I think they're up at around 14 megapixels now, which doesn't seem to be any slowdown in their kind of desire to make bigger and better cameras. And so people are creating lots and lots of large JPEGs, embedding these in documents, and they're generally way too high resolution for the average presentation. There is also less efficient image formats like TIFFs and bitmaps and so forth, still commonly used, yet, for example, a 30 meg TIFF file will often, when it's converted to a JPEG, only take up about 1 to 2 megs. Within Microsoft Office files, when you paste an Excel chart into other documents, say like a PowerPoint, it's not so well known, but it will actually paste the entire Excel document in behind the chart, which on those rare occasions, if you do want to double click on that chart to access the data behind it, you can do, allowing you to edit the data that drives the chart without leaving PowerPoint. And in the majority of cases, most people don't use this capability, but again, it can really bloat out files behind the scenes, essentially. Finally, standalone JPEGs themselves, which mostly are considered to be as small as images can get, but these also carry some baggage. Most JPEG encoders used by digital cameras these days will use basic tables that are presented as part of the JPEG standard, and these are generic, so they don't take advantage of optimizations based on the image's unique content. So, in effect, there's a lot of baggage occurring in these digital photos also. So why is this a problem? In short, it's because storage has grown so fast. People are creating more and more files every day, and these files are getting bigger and bigger, and this all adds up to runaway storage growth that has a ton of knock-on effects. More data to store, leading to more hardware, migrations, consolidations, headaches, etc. More data to back up can mean missed backup windows, etc. And all of this adds up to more of your time essentially managing the fallout. And it's a bit of a waste of your time that you can't get back, time spent patching systems, dealing with capacity warnings, physically wrestling with users to reduce their quotas, and essentially it's all non-recoverable time, and I'm pretty sure, given the chance, everyone would be able to find time to spend on other and arguably better things than dealing with this kind of firefighting. So, to recap, storage growth is accelerating. File bloat is a big contributor factor to storage growth. And together these things add up to a bit of a headache. But happily there is a solution. So, Neuxpower will eliminate bloat from your files permanently. We have solutions available for either the server, which involves replacing bloated files with optimized versions, or for the desktop, which involves optimizing bloated email attachments as they're being sent. All of these are software-only solutions, so they're pretty easy to get up and running, and they don't require any additional hardware. And we have a little slide here from Information Week talking about how this technology works. So first up, it's not compression. We are wringing files out, shaking unneeded bytes out of graphics and objects, which basically means that we radically reduce their size without affecting their appearance. Or in other words, we're cutting the fat out of people's files. And I'd like to talk you through a little bit about how we are doing that. Within Microsoft Office files, we are going inside the documents to optimize individual elements that are contained within. So we will change image formats within Office. We'll downsample high-res graphics, remove background data, etc. And essentially, we're cleaning the whole file up and leaving you with a lean version of the file in its original format. With standalone JPEGs, it's a bit different. Here we are applying additional JPEG compression, downsampling chroma information, and optimizing the tables I mentioned earlier for each individual image. And all of these changes can be achieved without visible degradation of the image, and also without resizing the JPEG. And on average, we're able to reduce JPEGs by 50% or more. A key part of all this is that we leave the files in the original format, which means a PowerPoint will remain a PowerPoint. We don't wrap the files in any way, so there's no need to unzip optimized files. The owners of the files won't know that their files have been changed. And you don't need any software from us to view or edit the optimized files. Essentially, they're just the originals with all of their fat removed. It is a lossy approach, but a lossy approach is the only way to permanently eliminate file bloat. Any other approach is just finding more efficient ways to store what is essentially waste. And we as an organization take great pains to ensure that we preserve the visual content integrity of all of your files, by which I mean optimized files will look and feel identical to the originals. They'll just be a lot smaller. Recently, DCIG described our technology as a powerful means to deliver data reduction on the most common file types in business environments. And the most common file types, by a fair margin, are Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and JPEG. They're certainly the most prolific, and happily, they're also the most bloated. The majority of customers we're speaking to on average have 50% of their storage consumed just by these file types, except for Les, of course, who had 50% of his storage just with JPEGs, which is slightly above average. But we are able to get pretty incredible results on these file types. So these figures that you can see on screen here were recorded by the US Navy back in 2007. They conducted a whole load of shipboard trials while they were assessing our software for deployment to the Navy. And they published those results in a report that we have on our website. This was before we added JPEG support, but for reference, as I said, we're also achieving around about 50% reduction on JPEGs too. And that's without resizing. So let's take a look at how that will affect the typical server then. If we say that 50% of the storage is files that we can work with, running Neuxpower will replace those bloated files with optimized versions, reclaiming a portion of the existing storage. So after running the software, we are able to reduce the overall storage by 25%. And these are rounded averages, of course. The actual amounts you'll be able to achieve will depend entirely on your own content. However, we do have an evaluation version of the software, and that will provide a detailed and specific breakdown of how much storage you personally will be able to save. And that's something you'll be able to get hold of from your CDW reps. So we'll take a quick look at the software. This is the dashboard. On the left-hand side is the configuration area. You get to choose the locations you want to run, what times you want the software to run, and which file types you would like Neuxpower to optimize. And down in the bottom corner, you have the option to choose the settings, so essentially how aggressive you want the optimization to go. And we've grouped these into totally safe options, which are the basic options, and then some additional options which you can apply to older files, which do discard increasingly more elements of the file. Again, all background and non-visible data, but just something we want you to have the capability to tone down if you need to. So the evaluation copy of the software will come locked to analysis mode. You can see in the top right-hand corner we have analysis or optimization mode. In this mode, it will produce a report of exactly how much storage you can save, which it does by taking a copy of each file, optimizing that copy. It will then record the difference in size between the two and then discard both copies, which means it gets an accurate review of exactly how much storage you will save. And that gets output to a report, which I have a small snippet of here for you. It goes considerably beyond the bottom of the screen here, but again, we have a sample report. I can get a link to that sent out to everyone on the call, so you can see a full breakdown of what the software will be able to produce. So, Neuxpower for desktops was created just over a decade ago, and to date, it's now used by over 1 million users worldwide. The server product is based on exactly the same engine that drives our desktop product. So it's been heavily deployed in some of the world's leading companies. It's also been heavily deployed by many of the world's defense organizations. And as you can imagine, they have fairly stringent testing and accreditation process before they allow any software onto their military systems. To date, the US DoD has deployed well over 300,000 desktop licenses and more than 100 servers. So, keeping with the defense theme, I'd like to sum up with this quote from NATO, who used Neuxpower a few years back on deployment in Afghanistan. They said that Neuxpower has been thoroughly tested under the most rigorous of operational circumstances and was never once found wanting. Quality of our software is one of our core values, and ensuring our software is rock solid is key. So it's great to get this kind of feedback and know that we're hitting our goals there. And I'd like to thank you all for listening today. And I think we are now able to shift to the Q&A if anybody has any questions for me.
Thank you, Mike, for that great presentation. We really appreciate the time and explaining that to us. This is the part where we ask if anyone has any questions. We're more than happy to answer them for you. If there's no questions now, you can always feel free to contact your CDW account manager for both any questions you might have as a follow-up to this presentation, or of course to contact them for further information. We do also encourage you to visit the Neuxpower and Neuxpower Lite website for further information, and also I do encourage you to perhaps request a eval version from your CDW rep, and it allows you to actually try it out and see how it can be beneficial to you and your customers. And at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Reese, and he can just, I guess, give you his contact information if you don't already have it.
Hey everybody, this is Reese from CW. I just wanted to thank everybody on behalf of CW and Neuxpower for hopping on the call here with us today. As she had just said, you can feel free to contact Steve or myself for evals of the software or any questions you have, and we can kind of take it from there.
I do see that there is a question now on here, and it's asking, how do you prevent data loss of data that I might want? If, Mike, you can help us answer that question, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, sure. So it is an art balancing the loss of data against the preservation of the visual integrity, and it's something we spent the last 10 years perfecting. We didn't get it right initially, but we spent a lot of time with those million users learning where we hadn't got it right and to put that right. So the reason we waited until this year to release the server edition was we wanted to make sure that the underlying technology was solid enough to be trusted in that kind of environment, if that helps.
Thank you, Mike. Is there any other questions? Okay, I see. How is this different than lossless compression and deduplication? Mike, if you would.
Sure. So it, let me compose my thoughts here. So we are addressing the problem slightly earlier in the flow. So we're getting to the root of the problem and eliminating bloat from the file. So unlike compression and dedupe, we aren't compressing and wrapping the files in any way. So they stay in their native format. A few benefits there. I mean, it's transparent, so you can still use compression or dedupe afterwards, and you'll still get all of the benefit of both of those tools. But from the point of view of a primary storage setup, then what we do doesn't have any performance hit. In fact, it will actually enhance performance because the files that people are dealing with are going to be actually slightly smaller than they used to be, considerably smaller, in fact.
Okay, we see another question here, and it's saying, so then this is actually reducing both primary and secondary storage. Is that correct, Mike?
That's correct, yes. So by addressing the files at the front line and cutting the files at the source, then we do get the cascading benefits. So you get to see that carried through to the backup or archive.
Okay, wonderful. I don't see any more questions at the time, but again, if you do come up with any questions, I do encourage you to contact both either your CDW rep or myself here at Lifeboat, and I will be more than happy to put you in contact with the right person. And again, I encourage you to visit the Neuxpower website to perhaps get an about version and also test it on your own time and see how, again, it could add benefit, be beneficial to you and your end user and customer. So if at this time there are no further questions, I want to, again, thank you all for attending the presentation, and I do hope you will be in contact with your CDW rep. And also on behalf of Neuxpower, CDW, and Lifeboat Distribution, I want to thank you again for your time and hope you have a great day.